Story time. All right. Whew, let's get into this one. So this was a dream, okay, that happened to me, I would say maybe around 2016, 2017. I think around that time frame. Let's talk about it though. I had a dream that the original owners of this, I was told this home, but it gets deeper. The original owners of this home, my childhood home, they came to me. Well, he came to me in a dream and gave me some information, okay? It gets deep. So I remember in the dream, I was with my mom and my aunt, which was the usual, the regular. I used to always spend time with my mom and my aunt. I was like a mama's girl. My tia and my mom are very close. It would just be me and my mom and my aunt, okay? We went to some sort of library. It was very strange. Like, it reminded me of, because it's something I connected to, it kind of made me think of the Grove. Like how I used to feel when I used to go to the Grove, everything used to seem so big and just kind of like noisy. It made me think of like when we would go to the Grove, but it made me think that we went to some sort of bookstore somewhere, but there were a long, like it was like a lot of stairs, like an escalator, like it was just different ways to get there. And I remember thinking that my mom and my aunt were taking forever, as they usually did. So I went ahead of them and I went in before them. Okay. I remember that while they were looking around, it was this really interesting store where the layout was like, there was like a table in the middle, there were bookshelves all around, and people were everywhere, and people were just kind of in awe. And it's weird, it almost felt like a pop-up kind of like shop bookstore. It was very unique and different, but I went ahead of them, and I remember being drawn to these specific like oracle cards or tarot cards, okay? And if I'm not mistaken, I think right after I shared that dream in real life, I think my dad brought me some cards, like after I told him the dream. It was very interesting. But anyways, that's that. So we're looking around, and like I said, I wandered, away from them because they were taking too long. But then they did come into the store. Now, my perspective of viewing them in this dream, I'm now able to see them. So those of you who have dreams, you know that you can be in the dream and actively watching yourself in the dream, participate in the dream. Well, now I'm actively watching myself, my mom and my aunt participate in the dream. And I remember looking over at them like, okay, they did make it up. Okay, cool. And then I wandered somewhere else. So it's like the dream hurried up and flipped, and I was at a computer. And what's interesting is as I was at a computer, I was researching something. It's like I was looking up information, and what showed on the computer, and what's so strange is this computer looked old, but yet it was showing me like a Wikipedia kind of like vibe, like style, like page. And I was just like, what am I looking at? And then I was like scrolling, and I was like, oh my God. And I remember saying, oh, I gotta share this. I gotta share this with mom and dad. I gotta share this, right? No lie. The dream flips. And this man is showing me my home, and he's talking to me about my property. Okay. So he tells me he's the original home owner, right? But then he corrects me. He says, technically, I'm the landowner. I'm not just the homeowner. I'm the landowner. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because when he said homeowner, I'm thinking, oh, so you used to own this house? Like, I'm trying to think like back into, sorry guys, I put Vicks in my nose. So I'm thinking he must have owned this home like what, in 20s or 30s? Because from reality, what I know is the people who owned the house before my parents did in the early 90s, I think the woman was a school teacher, and she used to play the piano. And there was, I think those are the things I know. I think they had a daughter or a son or something like that. That was that, right? But what's interesting is I'm thinking maybe this gentleman is saying that he used to own the house like in like maybe the 30s, 40s, 50s. No. If you saw the way this man was dressed, when he said he was a landowner, he meant that. So he told me not only did I own your slot, your house, because that's small, he owned the whole property. You guys, not only did he own my house, because the land. He owned my neighbor's house, my other neighbor's house, the people behind me, the people in front of me. And then he went above and beyond and showed me the land, the way it was originally laid out. And it was like all this greenery, and it was this huge like house. And he was, I would say he was like possibly in his 30s or 40s. And then he showed me his wife. Now, I know it's going to sound creepy, but his wife looked like she was just a teenager or a preteen, which made sense back then, right? And she had on like this dress, and she looked just very innocent and calm, and she was just playing around. And he told me, he says, I like pianos. He said, I like to play the piano, and I like pianos. And then he made a reference to, notice how there's always a piano in this home. And what's crazy, you guys, the original owner, well, before my parents owned this house, she used to play the piano. And guess what? My grandmother used to play the piano at my mom's, childhood home. So when my aunt had to let go of her house, the piano came to this house. And my mom just felt a call to keep the piano because it was in the family. And I've always wanted to learn how to play the piano. What's odd is my aunt brought me a keyboard when I was a little girl, and that thing used to be going. Like, I used to, practice on it and play on it. And my mom always said, well, maybe we'll get you piano lessons at some point, right? No lie, I have my grandmother's piano. It just needs to be tuned. And so how ironic that he shared with me that music was something that he loved, and there was always a piano or several pianos on his property. Okay, so he shared all of this with me. He just kept telling me that this was his land, and he seemed like he was like either like Spaniard or indigenous. Like he looked European. Okay, and he had a black hat on, and he had this black like weird pilgrimage outfit. It was a very dated look, you guys. And he was just telling me that this was, his land, like that this was his property at one point. Now, I'm not saying he's the original landowner, but this is the landowner who came to me and let me know that my street, my block, is basically his home. He didn't come to me with any beef. It was almost like he just wanted me to know, like, yeah, this is my land. This is my property. And I just thought that was so deep. And keep in mind, this happened a while back. I'm pretty sure I have it detail for detail written down somewhere. I just have to find which one of my journals have it. But no lies, 4 a.m. And I felt called to share this with you guys. Like, this is one of my spooky stories that I have. But he likes music, and he loves pianos. And what's so crazy is I've always loved classical music. And I've always just felt like this ease of playing it in this home. And this house has always been filled with music. Always been filled with music. And whenever the energy is stagnant in this space, music is always played. Like when I was a little girl, my dad used to blast music in here. My mom too. It was always music being played in this home. And it always was either a variety of music. But I remember some of the first sounds that I remember hearing were Yanni and Kenny G. So, a pianist, Yanni. So, I'm just connecting like the piano. I'm like, this is very, very interesting. But yeah, he showed me the original land. And you guys, like, this man owned the whole neighborhood. Like, there's no way. Like, looking at all these lots of houses is just so wowed in comparison to what he showed me all this land looked like. Oh, there was a swing too. He showed me like this swing on this tree. So it's just deep. Really, really deep. So we're thinking, what, early 1900s? I'm not sure. Maybe even 1800s. But this was old, y'all. This was old. And for some reason, he wanted to share with me that. And he wanted to show me in the dream that I was doing research. And I'm like, I don't even that's wild. So he just jumped and showed me this, and that's been that. Like I said, nothing bad. He just gave me knowledge. Hopefully he'll help me now, because I need some help keeping the house, because he didn't seem like he had an issue with me. So very interesting. Blessings to him.